How you doing?
I'm great, John. I feel like Late Night with the Devil is a movie you would absolutely rent off the new release shelf at
It's right
Blockbuster. You
there.
agree? It's right
Oh
there,
no,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
under, is it, but here's my question, dude. Is it
Mhm.
under staff picks?
Oh, it's definitely under staff picks. It's probably not on featured right away. I'd say it's more staff picks. All right, I got to figure out how you did that.
I
First,
made
I
a
really
deal
got to
with the
thank you.
devil, buddy. I made a deal with the devil. Don't
I
forget.
I see that. But I really got to thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you are, and I understand you're shooting right now. So absolutely loved the movie. So I really appreciate getting the chance to talk about it for a minute. And really the whole story behind it. I mean, it came out South by Southwest almost a full year ago now, or a little bit more than a full year ago.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Huge rave reviews and has carried the buzz for a year. And you're somebody that's been, you've been around the industry for a good bit of time now. And I think most people love seeing you in things. And you're the one person that always pops up. I just got to get this out of the way before we start. You always pop up in podcasts that I listen to with different hosts like Kevin Smith or Michael Rosenbaum, all those guys. And every single one says how you are the nicest, best person in Hollywood. So to see something, this happen and the love coming out for it it's a great story. And I'm really happy that it's
Thanks,
happening for
John.
you here.
Thank you. I'm lucky for many reasons. So many things that I have to be grateful for, but one of the things that I'm so grateful for is how many Monster Kid and fellow geek friends, film geek friends that I've made since I've come out to Hollywood and been plying my trade, trying to make movies and TV and comic books and all the ways that I like to tell stories. And I'm just when you find fellow fans, that's all I am at the end of the day is just a fan that happened to also have a proclivity to acting and writing, and so I've been honing that skill. But I feel really grateful.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you ask me, that's where the best, most real content at least comes from. It's people that are actually fans of it. And it's funny what you said about it being on the Blockbuster shelf, because even the cover and the poster, well, I guess I can't say cover because it's not out yet on physical media, but like the poster that was released is so late 80s, mid 80s horror movie VHS cover. And it just really prepares you for what's there. So just to jump into it, I think everybody would go to Carson first when you're talking about talk show host, but I didn't really get a Carson feel from Jack. Like, who was your inspiration, or did you just decide to take it a different way?
I wanted to create an amalgam of different late night talk show hosts. There was so much energy I wanted to bring to Jack because he is so different from me as David. He's just a totally different kind of person. He moves and speaks, and his rhythm is different. So I dug deep, and
Mhm.
at the way down deep well of the character inspiration, I looked at horror hosts of the past, Zatcherly and Sven Gulli and Joe Bob Briggs and Cremation Mortem and all of my favorites in that space, Elvira, you name it, because the comedy meets the kind of gallows humor. And
Mhm.
then I found this guy, Don Lane, who was one of the biggest talk show hosts in Australia back in that time period, who was a huge influence. He was actually a Chicago native. And then Dick Cavett was a big influence. Letterman, Carson, Morton Downey, Phil Donahue. There were quite a few.
Yeah, Dick Cavett was who was on my mind looking at it, but it's now. Did you Don Lane? How did you find him?
That was
Were you doing
all Colin and
research?
Cameron. I didn't know
Oh,
anything. The only thing I was familiar with Don Lane about was that he was the guy who gave that interview with Tom Waits
uh-huh.
that that a lot of people credit with being an inspiration for Heath Ledger's Joker performance.
I watched that
Yeah.
clip just like a
So
couple months ago.
yeah,
It is
that that
crazy how
that
much it's
that
like that.
guy, Don Lane, was really cool. He would, have on supernatural skeptics and, mind readers and telepaths, but also Bowie and all the rock stars and actors and people. He was their late night host. He was a big influence for sure. And Colin and Cameron, who grew up there, um, they started sending me tape of Don Lane, and I found that very useful.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, 70s late night was a different world. You have all kinds of
Really
stuff on there
cool.
like that. So I mean, your character, Jack, obviously he goes through this whole thing with one main purpose. He wants to save his show. He's coming back from a tragedy in his life. And you really, the tragedy of it, obviously we voiced that without getting into the climax of the film. There's this background about the cults and possible demonic possession and things like this. Which, by the way, like religious cults is something you throw that in a summary, I'm in there. I've
Yeah.
never seen one I didn't like. But it hints at these stories and it doesn't go deep into it. Did you have any talk with the directors or while you were making this about how far to go? It's always interesting to me of how far you should go in that. Because like the Bohemian Grove thing, or the Groves is what it's called in the movie, I suppose. Those are the things that at the end of the movie, I'm like, oh, I really want to know more about. I want to see more about that. But I know that if I did, it might not make the movie as good. So how do you know
I
where to draw
agree.
that line?
It's really interesting trying to strike the balance between how much do you want to peek behind the curtain to The Wizard of Oz and how much do you just want to see the great and powerful Oz. That's the
Mhm.
alchemy of cinematic storytelling. And when you're dealing with something that has been exploited, explored, and demonstrated on film and television in pulpy ways, in phantasmagorific ways, like the occult and secret societies and
Mhm.
Satanism, especially Satanic Panic kind of conspiracy
Oh
theories.
God, yeah.
I think that the less is more approach is always the best way to go. But luckily for me, I didn't need to do much research because I know everything there is to know about that stuff. I grew up
Mhm.
in evangelical Kansas where we were like inundated with this idea that there were Satanists lurking around every corner waiting to snatch us
Oh
and
yeah.
drag us off to rituals. I was taught at youth group by the local Kansas police department had an occult specialist who told us to watch out for going to rock concerts and people making this symbol because they were trying to get us to be indoctrinated into a
Right.
satanic. So I was familiar with and I love learning about secret societies and all that stuff. So I know and knew tons, and I'll continue to find that stuff fascinating because I love it.
I mean, how could you not? I catch myself all the time deep diving, binging these History Channel shows, secret societies, and any documentary that has been there blows my mind. And satanic, could you imagine that satanic panic nowadays with Facebook? How much worse it
Oh,
probably would have
dude. Well,
been?
we have it. We have it. We have our own in this
That,
day and age. There are these conspiracy theories with these organizations and these ideas about like what's going on in pizza parlors and blah blah blah. It's crazy, and yet this is why this kind of storytelling is still landing a punch. This is why this kind of
yeah,
storytelling still matters to people because there are so many people who are being, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, why this stuff takes hold, why the Satanic Panic was such a big deal, why the conspiracy theories of today are such a big deal, because I think people are manipulating and creating a fear-mongering brand of hatred against others, people who are outside of the box, whether that's their social identity, their where their national of origin is, their sexuality, whatever that other is.
hmm
Creating conspiracy theories around that stuff, it helps people explain their fear of things that they don't understand. It helps people like rationalize their frustrations with where they are in their own lives. That's when it gets so dangerous, and that's what this movie plays around with.
right. Yeah, it's much less anxiety inducing to see it in this form, even though that this movie will get you pretty anxious by the end. I loved how they took I'm not gonna say a left turn, but there were the Exorcist moments in there, sure, and Lily Diabo was amazing. Or I'm sorry, Ingrid
She's so
Torelli.
great. She's so great.
But
Ingrid's amazing.
that last bit, which is something we've never seen a possession movie do, was astounding with the electricity. I'll just say that without ruining
Yeah,
anything.
it's pretty rad.
Um,
It reminded me of
I
like an old Cronenberg movie,
100%, scanners or something like that. So last question. I know you're super busy, but obviously you're a huge fan of this stuff. I think you've made no secret of that. And me being a fan of the same kind of stuff, being around the same age, I got to ask if you were to make your dream horror film, are we doing like Universal Monsters? Are we doing something brand new, or what area would you go to for your?
I would like to take the inspiration that I've seen from the auteurs of today, like Jordan Peele and Lee Winnell and others, who are really bravely honoring the tradition of what we love so much about the Universal monsters, but bringing that horror into a new era. I feel like there's still a film that we could really make about the creature that would be really
He was
freaking
my
cool.
favorite, and I don't think anybody ever took him seriously. I love the
So it's
creature.
time. Let's do it. You know who I
Yeah.
wanted to make a creature movie? James Gunn.
You think
I
I
want to
could
see,
see
I love James Gunn's horror movies, and I want to see Christopher Nolan make a horror movie too. I know he just talked about it recently. That would be
Mhm.
so rad. I want to see,
Oh, those
yeah.
two movies would be so insanely different, but both I can't imagine they wouldn't be amazing. But
You know
thank
what?
you so much.
By the way, Greta Gerwig, after what she did with Barbie, I want to see her take on Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's the person who's the most, I know she probably, I don't even know her at all. I don't know if she has any interest in the horror space, but she's the filmmaker I'm just constantly like so intrigued about. I want to see her take on Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time out. Love the
Thanks, John.
movie. You know, it's almost 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm glad for everything that's coming your way, and best of luck to you.
Thanks, buddy.